Hi again. Long time no see. It's been a minute. We're talking today on Blockchain Mastery about stable coins. My name is Titi Oyinsan. Let me just give a little background into what stable coins represent. Now, they're cryptocurrencies whose values are pegged to a stable asset, mostly fiat currencies. Now, there's USDT, which represents Tether, USD Coin, which is USDC, and Binance have their own as well, called the BUSD. Yep, my phone did have to go off at that second, didn't it? Well, BUSD is also in the running, and I have a feeling there are probably a few other stable coins that we might have to reckon with in due time. But the interesting thing is that those are the three most popular coins with a combined market capitalization of $140 billion. Stable coins kind of allow faster, lower cost, safer transactions, if you want to use the word safe in this conversation at all. There is that reduction of the limitations associated with transferring with traditional banking, and that often has location-based restrictions and, of course, lack of financial services during the holidays. But which stablecoin should you trade? That's the question. How do stablecoins compare to fiat currencies? Now, today, we're going to be having that conversation. And to help us out with that today, we have Victor Olorunfemi. He is part of the Bantu Blockchain Foundation. He is a product designer with aptitude for discovering and envisioning how new technologies can be applied to solve real life problems. And he's working with a brilliant team of Pan-African techpreneurs to help reduce financial friction and expand financial inclusion in the emerging economies in Africa, especially. I can't wait to begin this conversation. Welcome, Victor.
Hi, welcome. Hi, Titi. Good to be here.
How's it going? How have you been?
um, we've been building, we've been grinding.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
we don't stop. We just keep, you know, building and building in hopes that people will start seeing everything we've been working on in the next couple of months,
Mm.
years, yeah, so to speak. Yeah, but it's been
You've
exciting
been on this
times building blockchain products. Yeah.
you've been on this journey for quite a while. Can you
Yes,
peg
indeed.
a year when you decided, you know what, blockchain technology, this is what I'm going to do? What pulled you into this market?
um, yes, I've been on this journey for quite a while. I've been in tech, well, or rather, I've been doing tech for um, nothing less than 10 years, I think.
Mm,
And in blockchain in particular, I got into blockchain space sometime in 2016. That's over 6 years ago. And initially, what drew me in was um, I heard about Bitcoin, but it wasn't even okay. No, I heard about I'd known about Bitcoin um, from the very early days, maybe 2012 or thereabouts, but I just didn't think it was anything that I could access here. So I just let that go. But then in 2016, there was a Ponzi scheme or something that was going on then, and they were using Bitcoin, and then that caught my attention. The local one was using the local currency, but the international one was using Bitcoin. So I thought,
mm,
okay, these guys are sending value peer to peer
mm,
using Bitcoin. So that caught my attention. Like, okay, so there's a technology that allows people to actually just send value without even knowing who the other person is. And there are ways
mm,
in which you can confirm that the transaction actually went through. And then secondly, the reason why I didn't get into it before was I didn't think it was locally accessible. But then I found people who were doing Ponzi and said, okay, how do you get Bitcoin? I said, oh, that's easy. So
mm,
person is selling. I'm like, for real? Somebody's selling Bitcoin here in Lagos. I'm like, okay, link me up,
mhm.
and then and I bought, my first Bitcoin then, and I just started playing around, with wallets. Like, okay, what does this mean? What does hash mean? What does this mean?
Yeah.
And then I don't know, went on the rabbit hole, discovered a website called CoinDesk, and then I tried to read as many
Mm,
things as I could.
wow.
27 by 2017,
CoinDesk. Everybody went to CoinDesk for everything.
CoinDesk, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
by,
my
by
first website was the Coin Market Cap. Once I
All
knew
right.
that there was
Coin market
something
cap.
called the coin market, that was a
Coin market
website
cap.
that blew my mind. And I was
It
like,
has all the information.
and I don't think there were more than maybe 200 coins at that point ever made
There weren't
at
so
that
many.
time.
There weren't so
But
many
now there
coins.
are thousands.
I think tens of thousands. Then I think at the end of 2017, then they had emerged close over 1,000,
Wow.
and then obviously we know most of them went down the drain.
Of
And then,
course.
but now
Absolutely.
I'm hearing that there's like tens of thousands, like because anybody can mint a coin right now. Everybody can just go online and just use a smart contract to create a
Mm.
coin. And so now
Mm-hmm.
there's like tens of thousands of coins. Some of them are not even a huge chunk of them are not even on coin market cap.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
know,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
So
That was the
yeah,
journey.
so
That's how
that's
it
it.
started.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's how I got into it, and I started researching. From there, I got into Ethereum, and then
Mm.
from there, I now started actually talking about blockchain beyond cryptos.
Mm.
Yeah, so my journey, I'd say, kicked off fully in 2017, though I got in 2016. 2018 was when I finally I left where I was working in 2018 to join a team of like this Pan African techpreneurs, like I said, and we started actually trying to use blockchain to solve problems beyond just trading.
Mm.
Yeah, and all that journey is why I'm here today in
Yeah.
Bantu, Trovotech, and every other place that I am in. Yeah, it's been quite an
So
interesting, challenging journey, but
yeah.
interesting nonetheless.
So it's a very close story to most people, especially in Nigeria,
Mhm,
how they came across crypto or came across blockchain technology, and the fact that they
mhm,
wanted to solve problems. Uh,
mhm,
do you believe in all in well, I won't say all case and purposes now, but
mhm.
the general uses of stable coins? Hmm?
Yeah.
Uh, what are they for someone that approached you today and wanted
Mhm,
to have a conversation on how to take advantage of stable coins? What would you tell them?
mhm. Um, this might be a bit controversial, and this does not represent the opinion of Bantu,
Of
right?
course, of course.
Where I work. But in 2020, when I started seeing on the news COVID,
Mm,
January or February, and started hearing that China were going to start lockdowns, I
mm,
remembered what happened when Ebola came into Lagos some years before then. And for some reason, I thought this was more global in nature, and I just felt like it would have some drastic impact on the economy. I wasn't
mm,
exactly sure the full scale of how it was going to happen, but to me, it just seemed like I didn't want to be holding uh, my local currency. At that time, I was probably trading for 300 and something. And I told people, I said, it might not be very safe right now to hold your local currency. If you have any opportunity, you should hold a more stable asset, so to speak, right? Long and short of the story is the easiest asset for me then, because I couldn't go on the street, to source for the USD. The easiest asset for me then, being in this blockchain space, was to um, get on stable coins. And so I started acquiring USD stable coins then. So whenever I needed to use Naira, then I would just literally just take the amount that I need and convert into Naira. And 2 years down the line, it's proved to be one of the smartest things that I did. Um, then I remember I seemed like a prophet of doom when I was saying it then, but
we
but
we all did. We all
yeah,
did.
yeah. But
Mm,
now, I mean, the results are in, and I think the my local currency has tanked 2x. The
mm,
reverse. It's done, and those who listened at the time are better off. Now, that's a very, very obvious use case, because
mm,
I could access stable coins from wherever I was without having to go out locally to go and source for actual USD, which wasn't even smart, holding actual notes uh, in my pocket, because how do I spend this? If I want to convert it back to my local currency, then I have to go and find someone who needs it. And I remember there was a lockdown. So how do I do that with a lockdown? How do I go and source for, visit the Bureau de Change and all those places too.
mm,
So with stable coins, I was easily able to move from a local currency into a stable coin, able
mm,
to preserve the value of whatever money I had at the time, or assets I had at the time. And whenever I need to make use of it in local currency, then I just convert a little chunk of it and then move on. So that flexibility, um, stable coins and cryptos in generally are like activating your assets with the
mm,
digital. They're not just digital and static. They're digital and they have wings to do a lot of things. They can morph into other things. They can go across borders,
mm.
and then there's a whole transparency. Everything is. Sometimes it surprises me how a lot of institutions still are still sleeping on on the potential of these things. But yeah. So that's an obvious
Use case that you would,
example that,
yeah.
yeah, that anybody can relate to. Now, for more
Mm,
technical people, they would probably use it to trade. For those who are trading digital assets, they use it to trade on digital asset exchanges. They use it to trade other more volatile assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., or Bantu tokens. Um, that's a use case for those who are into high frequency trading. For those who just have a lot of liquidity and don't know what to do with it, they might want to lend, right? Want to engage in lending. So they convert the US dollar or their local currency, whatever it is, into stable coins and provide it for market making opportunities. So they become liquidity providers or market makers on decentralized, decentralized markets, DEXs, decentralized exchanges, and then they earn trading fees and stuff like that just for providing liquidity to enable transactions to be able to go through. So instead of their money just lying fallow, uh, in some countries with negative interest rates, in some other countries with ridiculous interest rates, and all kinds of madness going on, they just put their money there, liquidity pools, so to speak. People use it for liquidity, and they get trading fees from that. And then for another class of people who are technical and understand how DeFi, decentralized finance, works, they stake their stable coins, for example, and then they earn interests.
mm,
When they stake their stable coins. So it all depends on how technical or sophisticated you are. But the
mm.
most obvious use case is just shielding yourself from the madness that's happening. We all know today, we've seen
Yeah.
the DXY, the USD,
Mm,
crush every other currency,
mm.
right? And
But
wherever
there
you
is
are
a
in the
lot of
world,
controversy around it,
yeah,
around the
yeah.
fact that it does feel like we
Hmm.
there was an effort to decentralize finance,
Hmm.
and then suddenly it's being pegged to a fiat currency, and
Yeah.
USD has also
Hmm.
had controversial backing as well. There's some who are of
Yeah.
the opinion that it's backed by certain other factors, not just gold, for instance. I
Yeah.
don't want to go too far into that because that's
Yeah.
another
Hmm.
conversation for another day. But
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
there are the true believers, those who believe in Bitcoin, the mother of all coins, and all it
Yeah.
stands for. There's no central
Hmm.
company behind it, etc., etc. Um,
Yeah.
it does feel like the stable coins we find in the market, the most popular ones, are being run by someone, and in
Hmm.
quote, may not be as stable as we think. So
Yep.
let's um, I'm shaking some tables here, but let's talk a bit about the three. Let's say the big three: BUSD,
Yeah.
USDT, and USDC. Could you help simplify what they represent,
Hmm.
and why
Yeah.
which of them you use, for instance?
Okay. Um, I have to make a cheeky shout out to, because they were probably a big four, and now you're just three, and that's because one of them, an algorithmic stablecoin, uh, met its Waterloo and really did a lot of damage to a lot of people who were using or holding it, and that's UST. But then that's on the side. So those big three, like you mentioned, we have USDT, which is also possibly, I call it the firstborn of all stable coins. Again, something I need to say is that stable coins are only stable relative to something. right? They're not perpetually stable. The stable, so when you say stable coin, it has to be, is it a USD stable coin, which means it's pegged to the USD, or is it a Euro stable coin, which means it's pegged to the Euro, or is it a Nigeria stable coin, which means it's pegged to the Nigerian Naira? So USDT was the very first one I ever encountered. It's run by the company that runs Bitfinex. I think they're called iFinex. Tether, back when we got into the space, there was the only it was the predominant. I don't know if there were any other ones, stablecoin then. That was our entry point, into the market. That was how we were able to buy or sell or exchange digital assets, on exchanges that we used then, the likes of Poloniex, Bittrex and Binance, etc. All the new kids that eventually joined later on. There were so many interesting ones then, but many of them are no longer here. So it was them. But I know that they
Mm,
usually had a lot of issues, a lot of controversy, a lot of drama around them, and the biggest problem was, are they truly backed by USD? you know with every now and then we'll see something on Twitter that would say, oh, 1 billion tether has been printed. And when we say, oh yeah, that means the market is getting some liquidity, the market is going to go up, blah blah. But then people always ask, printed out of where? Out of thin air? Or is there like actual $1 billion sitting somewhere backing the printing of this asset? So there's always been that
mm,
controversy. And for the longest time, they didn't want to go through any audits, or maybe they were studying. I'm not sure what it was, but it was always something. It was always like a ticking time bomb. Yet people flocked into USDT. Why? Because of liquidity and because of that first mover status. It's at least $50 billion liquid, and I don't think up to date anyone has complained about not being able to, liquidate whatever assets they have in
mm,
USDT into their local currency. So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship, or it's a love-fear relationship. It's like when you have a tiger as a pet. It's exotic,
mm,
it's all of that, but you know that you cannot lose your guard, you cannot sleep, just like
mm.
that, because do you know if this thing will just turn on his killer instincts and then bite you in the
Yeah.
back sometime? You never just know, right? So
So
that's
there was a
USDT.
time that Tether. So on Coin Market Cap, for instance, now it's considered the
Mhm.
number three coin, right?
Yes, by
It's the
market cap.
number three by market cap,
Yes.
meaning there's
Mhm.
more money there than in the former big three. The big three were Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP,
Oh yeah.
I
So I
believe,
think I,
for
I
the
think
longest
Tether
time.
has flipped. Yeah, for the longest time, I think Tether flipped XRP.
Mm.
Tether flipped.
Now, my
XRP has
my
had a lot of issues with SEC of late, so naturally. Well,
okay.
I'm not saying that's the reason why they've lost their market cap, but also with more people coming
Mm,
into the space, the first entry point
mm.
is, oh, you need Tether to get this, you need Tether to get that, you need Tether to get. It's like a visa.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Uh, I'm looking at, yeah, that's 67 billion, right? Is that
Yes.
67?
Mhm.
We're counting my zero as well. That's $67 billion, right? Worth of
Interesting. Yeah.
USDT as
Mhm.
a market cap. Circulating
Mhm.
supply is about what am I seeing here? Oh, daily volume is $765,000, and that's just today.
That's
Oh
million.
no, wrong
Seven
point.
765
Sorry, that's
million. Well, that's
42.
maybe, yeah, 42 billion.
Yeah, I was at the wrong
Hmm.
point. 42 billion in one day.
Yeah.
In one day.
Yes,
So
sir.
there's a lot of transactions going on.
There's a lot of
But
transactions.
it's
People are using USDT.
but it still hasn't surpassed. Um, so one would think, based on the issue of trust, uh,
Hmm.
on trust pegging something
Hmm.
to an actual asset, a more
Hmm.
physical asset as opposed to digital, that it would have
Hmm.
probably surpassed the top two, that's Ethereum and Bitcoin, at some point. But why, for
Hmm.
the layman watching, why hasn't
Yeah.
that happened?
Okay, that hasn't happened, and I do not know if it's gonna happen anytime soon, simply because um, people use Tether for utility. Well, of course, obviously they use Bitcoin for some level of utility and Ethereum for a lot of utility, but they use Tether for utility more than they use it for speculative reasons,
Okay.
right? And no one is buying Tether to think, oh, my Tether is going to become X amount in 5 years.
Okay.
Your Tether
Okay.
remains your Tether. maybe relative to your own local currency, it might appreciate, so to speak, because maybe the dollar or whatever currency,
Mm,
is appreciating.
mm.
But generally speaking, people are only buying Tether because they want to use it or they want to hedge against their local currency, right?
Okay.
People who are buying Bitcoin, a lot of them back then were using Bitcoin for many things. Were using Bitcoin uh, to pay bills, to pay flight tickets,
Mm,
to send money across borders. Um, it was still kind of cheap, and the fees were really cheap then, especially with some of the upgrades that happened in 2017. But now Bitcoin, because of the price, it's now like off territory. It's almost now like a status symbol thing for those who are wealthy. And a lot of them are simply just using it now. You hear people saying they have Bitcoin in their balance sheets. People are using it now as a store of value, right? So the more of these institutions come in to buy Bitcoin as alternatives to gold, or other kinds of assets, the more the price goes up, the more the early investors are happy, and because it's a coin that's limited in supply, it's deflationary in its model. You can expect that price appreciation, and because, like you said, it's the first one of all currencies. That's the first one everybody hears. So people always want to get into Bitcoin. So naturally, I'm not surprised to see Bitcoin market cap, and I'm sure by a significant amount, it's far outweighs that of Tether.
mm.
Ethereum also, because Ethereum is like the mother of all utility cryptos. When I say utility, I mean that people are actually able to um, build things on it. I know Bitcoin is going through that evolution to allow people to build things on
Yeah.
them, but with Ethereum came smart contracts,
Mm,
um, and smart contracts have literally revolutionized the game.
yeah.
With people now being like able to do things like DeFi, for example, which is a big deal. People, automated market making, decentralized exchanges,
Mm.
etc., etc. Right. So Ethereum obviously sits pretty as the king of
Utility
uh,
coins.
yeah, the
Yeah.
next level of what Bitcoin can do. I know they wanted Bitcoin to do those things then, and those Bitcoin custodians were like, nah, 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 nah. We're not
They,
going
there
to
was
add too much of this.
there were quite a few
Yeah.
Bitcoin forks that happened. A lot of
Yes.
different factions started breaking off. That's when we
Yeah.
started having. So there was BTC, then there was
Oh yeah,
BTCH,
yeah,
BCH,
Bitcoin Cash.
BCH,
That was
Bitcoin
2017, August
Cash.
2017. I
Yeah,
remember
so they
very
broke off.
well. Yeah, and
There
then
was also another
BSV.
BSV,
They had
then the
so many
BS.
Bitcoin
There was Bitcoin
wannabes.
Gold. There was Bitcoin
Yeah,
Gold at
Bitcoin
some point.
Gold. Yeah, so many Bitcoin wannabes. Everybody
Yeah.
wanted to. People claiming that they were Satoshi Nakamoto. People saying that
Hmm.
they are trying to preserve the original vision. It's
Yeah.
just it's just normally what happens with businesses, with religions, with
Mm.
when something has gained traction and people want to say it was my original idea. Even
I
music
remember.
groups, you
Yeah,
have these
true.
things that happen everywhere.
I remember the core of the argument then being they wanted Bitcoin to do more things, which is essentially what
Mhm.
Ethereum took advantage of. Uh, and
Absolutely.
and now even with the advent of NFTs, Ethereum is even more relevant today
Yes.
uh,
Yeah.
because what do they call the NFT stores again? What do they call them? The marketplaces.
The
I can't remember.
marketplaces, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
So the
NFT marketplaces.
yeah, they basically run on Ethereum and Solana, I believe. They're the major ones now. But then
Yeah.
BUSD has jumped in the game. Binance has really jumped in the game. Now, not to talk
Mhm.
about the brand Binance too much,
Mhm.
they have been around for a while. They were the
Yeah.
number one exchange for quite a bit, especially around Nigeria. I think it
Yeah.
was one of the first places where I exchanged coin.
Mhm.
There were some local ones that were a lot smaller,
Mhm.
but once Binance came out with their own in quotes stable coin, I feel like they
Mhm.
did something to change the game. What do you think about BUSD in comparison with Tether?
Um, in comparison with Tether, I would probably say what BUSD brings to the table. So BUSD, just to be clear, is a stable coin that is managed I don't know if that's still the case, but when it came out, it was managed, came out in 2018, I believe. It was managed by Binance and a company called Paxos. What they try to do is to ensure that there's more transparency. And don't get me wrong, with Tether is now making an effort to be more transparent with their audits. For people to actually see that there is a certain amount of dollars resting in the bank, to be able to fulfill orders. But BUSD, Binance, and I think it's typical with their brand, and what they do is they look at the market, they look at shortcomings and all of that stuff, which was kind of like how their exchange gained all the traction they got. I think they've done the same thing with stablecoins as well. And they decided that, look, what was lacking with these guys, Tether, was that transparency at the time. And so they want to be more transparent. Also, for the very fact that they became so big, they become really massive. So it's a kind of beachhead opportunity for them. They already have the volume. So why not leverage your volume and have your stable coin? You have the volume. We know that they generate a lot of money. We know that they have, as of now, a face that you can trust in charge of the project and all of that stuff. So they just leverage all that goodwill to come up with a stable coin and provide a level of trust. It's a book that can also be used on their own exchange itself. So what are the advantages, or rather, how do they compare to Tether? I would say that because Binance is almost like the de facto or go-to exchange for everybody now, it's easy to lay your hands on the BUSD. But I think that as of now, available on just 3 chains. That would be, I think, Ethereum, Binance Chain, and Binance Smart Chain. To the average person, it doesn't really matter. All they know is that they're buying BUSD. So if you trust in the Binance brand, if you believe that they're not going to disappear or do anything with your money, it makes sense, for people to get Binance USD. Also, for those who play on the Binance platforms, like Pancake Swap, and all the other decentralized markets, BUSD is usually an opportunity. It's usually, especially the one on Binance Smart Chain, is used to easily, just like use Ethereum to get into those other Ethereum projects on decentralized exchanges. On Binance, decentralized exchanges, you can easily move from Binance Smart Chain USD into all of those Binance-based, projects. So that's kind of how it kind of differs. Where Tether, on the other hand, I've not really seen that use case where it's being used to engage in all, DeFi and all that kind of stuff. People use Tether to either hedge their local currencies or to get into other projects like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Binance is trying to provide a bit more utility, for their own token. So that's kind of like how I see it. And then obviously, like I said, if you trust the brand, if they've been around for a while, then you probably feel a bit safer, using BUSD.
So I went through the historical data there just now, and it never goes below 99 cents, essentially. Over the past 3 years, it's not gone below 99 cents. So they're not doing too badly. But then I also noticed that their market cap over the past few months has just kept growing in the millions. It was, I think, around 18 million earlier in the year, and it's about 21 million now, which is,
Is a million or billion? Is it a million or billion? I
Sorry.
want you.
Sorry. Let me check it out again. That's billion. Not
I would expect billion.
million,
Yeah.
billion. So it's mean that they're doing something right. And as you said, the more people have use cases for it, I guess, the more they will definitely put it to good use.
Absolutely.
Some time back, we had the conversation about US coin, and there was a time that the USD coin did surpass Tether in price, not in market cap, in price. And a lot of it was because of something that happened. I know there was something that happened that sort of broke the trust. Do you want to touch on that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think the okay. First, again, I'd like to say that when we're talking about stable coins, it's not really, the prices are just, they are, the best comparisons will be the prices relative to the dollar, not relative to the other stable coins.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think what happened though, in the case of us having, a lower price in Tether USDT versus the dollar or versus other stable coins, was there was a slight pegging that happened. when UST um, made soul rest in perfect peace. Um,
Wow.
so
Wow.
UST was an algorithmic stable coin.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I said on a lighter note, so I hope nobody
Yeah, of course, of
feels
course, of
offended.
course, of course, of course.
So when that happened, the issue and what happened was UST rather, like I said, which was run by Luna Foundation Guard at the time, had a lot of issues because uh, of some things I wouldn't touch on, trust issues, people trying
Mm,
to get out of the system, etc., etc., and then the algorithms went haywire, and then it started depegging relative to the dollar,
mm,
depegging relative to the dollar, and you had UST get all the way to, let's say, zero, about 20 cents to a dollar, which was really ridiculous for something that claims to be a stable coin, right?
mm.
So
Yeah.
naturally, people thought, oh my goodness. Yeah, I think there was a tweet where some people said, oh, the next on the line is Tether, and we're going to expose them, that they're scammers, they don't
Mm,
really have the assets back then. Panic, people started rushing to quickly get
yeah.
out of Tether. And
Mm,
normally what happens is when people are running out of a coin on a marketplace, it simply means that they push the sell pressure drives the price down. All
mm.
right, that's what
Okay.
typically happens. That's why the prices of assets drop. Somebody sells, and the other will see, oh my goodness, someone has sold. It has dropped, and then the
Mm,
mass effect. Oh, let me sell before I'm holding bags, before I'm not able to sell at a good price. And then when everybody's
mm,
thinking that way, they just keep driving the price downwards. So I think a
mm,
lot of people were running, out of Tether, and
mm,
naturally, to run out of Tether, the only obvious options or alternatives will be USDC, being I think the second biggest stable coin as of now, and maybe BUSD. All right. So
yeah.
when there's sell
Yeah.
pressure on one side, there's probably a lot of buy pressure on the other one. That's what people are
Yeah.
running into. So you have that slight disparity. But I think Tether, maybe they try to manage the situation a bit well.
Mm,
And when people regain their trust and thought, okay, these guys are not, this is just fraud. Fraud meaning fear,
mm.
uncertainty, and doubt. People now started,
Okay.
coming back, and then I think it found its bearing again. So I think that was kind of what was responsible for that incident at the time,
Mm.
that made that little depegging that happened to Tether. Then it found it bounced back again and got back to what it was before.
So I have to say thanks for kind of breaking it down for us, because there are probably quite a few people who was just on the fence about it and not
Hmm.
understanding which one to go for. Um,
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's so many websites you can visit to get more information about it. But the
Hmm.
reason why many people use these stable coins is for faster, quicker transactions, and of course
Hmm.
because they're easy to use when it comes to utilities now.
Yeah.
Making transfers onto certain websites. You did mention DeFi, and
Yeah.
Web3 is now a big deal as well. Let's talk a bit about Bantu. You need to give us a little background into Bantu Blockchain Foundation, and tell us what it's all about. And I'm actually quite excited about Bantu because of what I've heard. But tell us about the dream and where we are today.
Bantu, what keeps us getting up every day and building, like I said, when we started, I said we've been building, is the fact that we we've been on the market, like I said, for a while. We are early adopters rather, of this blockchain technology, um, and we observed that with everything technology, um, typically in Africa, we're always playing a consumer role, and we just wait for products to get handed down to us, and then we make use of it, and then they mine our data, and then they use our data to sell more things to us. The data, as we see them resting obviously on servers overseas, um, at the risk of being summoned by foreign regulatory agencies, and all kinds of things happening. Um, and when we started, we didn't even set out to build Bantu. We were using other blockchains to build products that leverage blockchain. We're trying to solve problems, like I said, to reduce financial friction within Africa. Um, and we're using other blockchains, like I said. But when we try to go mainstream to get some banks and financial institutions on board, many of them were skeptical about building and putting financial products on foreign blockchains because of the risks, that I already mentioned. So that, and the fact that many of those blockchains, like I said again, have very high fees and were not just exactly suited for serving our population here in Africa. People here want fast, fast, and they want cheap, cheap, right? They want quick, quick. Um, so it became obvious that we had to step in to build something that meets that product market fit, right? So we came together, the team at Interstellar, and some of us too who have been building in some other startups. We came together and then we launched Bantu Blockchain. But again, another thing that we wanted to do differently was there's always been controversies around blockchains. You always hear people are scammers, people got scammed, people lost their money, they're not regulated, people are afraid, they don't know who runs this particular organization. The person that runs it is under surveillance by SEC, all kinds of drama.
All sorts of
So
conversations. Yeah.
you get so and controversies, and so we said, um, most of us, all of us, have worked with reputable organizations before. Some of us have worked for governments. Most of us have worked for the big four, the multinationals, like Dell, EMC, PwC, etc., etc. We know that we kind of have a good reputation to start with, and then we've got experience as well, building, tech solutions and deploying tech solutions. But more importantly, we had some relationships with people, with senior people who are in the financial and payment sectors in Nigeria and Africa. So we decided, rather than just float a blockchain like that, we have to get things right and work with regulators, work with these people, to help us get things right. Because we foresaw, and we still think, and we still believe that regulation is coming into the space. And if regulation is coming into the space, you need to be ready from day one. We don't want to. Today, every now and then you hear, oh, SEC has summoned somebody for something they did in 2017, for something they did in 2018, something they did in 2019. Because those people, went ahead and started churning out things without trying to get things right. So we set out with advisors, like the CEO of Sterling Bank is one of them, the CEO of Pan-African Payment Systems was another one of our advisors, to tell us, look, this is what we're trying to build, but we want to build this in a way that it will last. We want to build to last. So what are the foundations? What are the things that we need to set? Who are the, what agencies do we need to start talking to and start showing what we're doing and start working with to ensure longevity? We don't just want to be a product that just comes and disappears. So those were the things that we considered at the very beginning, beyond the technology that we rolled out. And we went out, we started day one with a bank, with a banking partner of Sterling Bank. And before we knew it, we started having, we got everybody on board to build. We sold the idea, which was we're trying to build a blockchain for Africa that meets Africa's needs. Actually, when I say for Africa, it's not just for Africa. It's a global product, but we are trying to make it more suited for Africans. And how do I mean? Onboarding, so people can onboard with their local currency, very easily. They can off ramp with their local currency very easily. Um, they can use it. It's fast, right? We need, of course, to make payments, which is a big problem in Africa. You need something that's super fast. We look at all the blockchains there. Many of them so expensive. Many of them take, minutes, to settle. All of this information factored into the way we build Bantu. So we came up with a blockchain that settles transactions in 2 to 3 seconds. It means that you can use it for instant payment at a supermarket, at a local market, right? Transaction fees, a fraction of a naira, which is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a dollar. It means that petty traders can use it and give discounts, of kobos, discounts in naira, without worrying about fees. And of course, like I said as well, speed. So these are some of the things that we factored in while building Bantu blockchain, and we rolled it out. And so far now, we've had interesting adoption. We've had different developer communities building their own products on Bantu. We have an NFT marketplace coming on Bantu before the end of the year. We have a multi-sig wallet coming on Bantu before the end of the year. We have We already have a P2P non-custodial peer-to-peer marketplace on Bantu. We have a bank, Access Bank, that has leveraged Bantu Stack to build a blockchain product. So that's two banks now, and there are other banks and payment institutions, that I probably can't mention yet because the information is not yet public, building on Bantu. So what started then, as this little vision to build something that emerging economies like Africa can easily relate with, has started packing heat rather, and started gaining momentum. Another thing we did was, we know that here, many people have the technical abilities. We know that tokens and tokenization is a big deal, but not many people have the understanding of how to create their tokens. So we came up with a token creator, with which everybody that can read and write can simply create their tokens and have them running on Bantu blockchain. Most other blockchains, you need to have some level of coding expertise. You need to hire an engineer to help you create, just like, a lot of times you have to hire engineers to develop your websites for you. Here we've created what we call the WordPress of blockchain. Just now anybody can get a WordPress account and customize and have their websites. You can get on Bantu Token Creator and also create a token and have it on the Bantu blockchain network within minutes. So we just want to simplify things. We know that blockchain is going to play a significant role in Africa in unlocking liquidity from fixed assets. In tokenization, we're strong believers in tokenization. We're strong believers in what tokenization can do. Africa has a lot of natural resources. We have a lot of money, a lot of liquidity trapped in those natural resources. Tokenization can unleash those things and ensure that people actually use things that have value to transact amongst themselves, rather than currencies that just keep failing because they're not really backed, by sound economic policies, or other kinds of things, right? So Bantu has been built to meet those use cases, like I said, tokenization, payments, meet the industry standards for banks and and financial institutions, to build the next level of products, payment products on Web3 products on. And like we said, we have people who are now building things like NFTs and games and stuff like that on Bantu as well. So that's Bantu in a nutshell. That's what keeps us going, like I said. And if you notice, Visa noticed this, and then we entered a collaboration with them earlier in the
Visa,
year.
that's
Yes, Visa.
VISA, Visa, the
Yeah,
card payment company.
exactly. And we would be the
Okay.
first Africa blockchain project that they actually went and shaped into collaboration with,
Wow.
to do a lot of things. So it's testament to the fact that, even though we're probably not everywhere, people are taking notice. People are talking to us. We're just being careful
So,
about who we bring into
so bottom
our
line
setup.
is there is a blockchain in Africa. There is
Yes,
an African blockchain, and
it's a global blockchain. There's a
there's a
global
global
blockchain
there's a
that
global
is
blockchain
very suited for Africa
very suited for
economic
Africa.
space. Yes, exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful. The fact that it's even called Bantu, it already speaks volumes. And
Yes,
you saw me going through some of the pages there. The Bantu Pay, there's a Bantu
yes,
Lab as well. Then the token creator.
yes,
It does seem extremely
yes,
simplified and easy to use. It feels like you've
yes,
done a lot of work on this. We should really
yes.
have another conversation on how to
On
get
Bantu.
started creating a
Yeah,
token, for instance. That sounds very interesting. Having my own token. So you're
indeed.
saying I can have like my
You
Titi the
can you can you
Dynamite.
can have your dynamite token. You
I
can
can
have
have
your
a
dynamite
dynamite
token, yeah, running in minutes, and you have it on the Bantu
and
network,
it would
and
have my
it
own
could be
ticker. Would I
something.
have my own ticker?
Yeah, you have your
Uh,
ticker. Maybe you call it DYM or whatever you want to call it, and then
Dynamite
or a Dino
oh wow.
DIN or something, and then you
Okay,
probably
okay.
say those in your community. This is what you guys use to
Yeah,
access resources. That
sure,
kind of. You
sure.
create your own use case for it, and people literally use it.
Now,
So.
I want to jump back into the issue of stable coins here because
Mhm,
on a blockchain like Bantu, how do
mhm,
stable coins affect what you do? And then, of course, in order to get onto Bantu blockchain, obviously, I have to have some form of assets, digitally speaking, already before I can get
mhm.
onto the blockchain. So,
Mm,
um, will you break it down for us? Maybe I'm getting
yes,
something.
yes, yeah, yeah. Let me break it down. So, how do stablecoins affect Bantu? What I'll probably say to that is that stablecoins can be minted on Bantu. Um, we today I know Vexity, they created a version of the e on Bantu as we speak. And I know that there are other people who are trying to do the same. So Bantu being a layer one blockchain can support people building. So people in Ghana can create their Ghana stable coin. Once they get the business and regulatory aspects right, the tech aspects, they simply go and mint it on Bantu and you have it up and running. Um, to tie that to your question about you need to have some asset before you can get into Bantu, not necessarily. Bantu has a peer-to-peer marketplace, like I mentioned. It's called Timbuktu, Timbuktu.exchange. And on Timbuktu, all you need is your local currency, whether it be Venmo, whether it be PayPal, whether it be Naira, whether it be e-Naira, whether it be Indonesian money, whether it be Kenyan shilling, wherever you are in the world, you get on Timbuktu. As long as there's a peer who's ready to transact with you in that currency of choice, you simply just go there. You will need, though, a Bantu Pay wallet to be able to transact on Timbuktu. You need a Bantu Pay wallet, which you can obviously get from bantupay.org. That you will find on the Bantu website, but bantupay.org, available on iOS and Android. When you get the wallet and you do your regular signing and registration, you get on Timbuktu, you log into Timbuktu using that wallet. That's another thing that Bantu does, make things easy. Log into a website using your wallet identity. And when you get on Timbuktu, all you need to do is, if you need to get the Bantu tokens or any token that is issued on Bantu, as long as it's on the marketplace Timbuktu, use your local, engage any of the merchants on the website, use your Timbuktu.exchange, use your local
Okay.
currency, tell them this is the amount that you're trying to get, and
So
then
you've
you
so
hit an order.
essentially essentially you created an exchange in order for people
Yeah.
to take advantage of the tokens that they've created,
Yes, a
and
decentralized
basically trade.
marketplace here. Yes, a
Fantastic. So
decentralized
you guys,
marketplace. It's non-custodial.
wow, you guys have gone a lot further than one would assume just from the surface. Um,
Yes, sir.
Now, there's still a journey ahead of us in terms of blockchain for people to accept and adopt. And I know we have to wrap up this conversation now because we've done quite a bit of justice to it.
Yeah.
But in terms of stable coins, um, do you prefer them to keeping money in the bank? Do you prefer having your money on a stable coin to having it in a Nigerian bank account?
I refuse to be quoted on this, but the answer is very obvious. If anyone watching, if you rewind and go to the beginning of the podcast or somewhere in the middle where I talked about COVID and playing it safe, you will realize you will get the answer to this question. I don't want to say something now, and uh, the people at the top, not Bantu now, but the Nigeria top come and say, "Hey, this man is the reason why the currency is dipping."
Here, I'm still here.
You're still here,
I was
okay?
almost
Uh,
lost there.
oh, sorry. I said I don't want to say something, and then somebody comes and says I'm the reason why the currency is dipping very hard. It's because of what I said on Titi's podcast that the currency is is crashing. Yeah, but
Mm,
read between the lines, people. Read between the
mm,
lines. You want
mm,
to travel. You want to travel. Do you want to be carrying a lot of money on you, or do you want to travel light?
mm.
Many of the stable
Interesting.
coins are accepted in many of the countries around the world. Do you want to carry a local currency? Do you want to carry a local currency, convert it to dollar, convert it back to the local currency? Do you want to go through all that mess? Or do you just want to have a
Mm,
stable coin and when you get to the particular country that you're visiting, convert to the local currency there and move on? You know,
mm.
do you want to hold your local currency regardless of, show your loyalty, to your local currency, come rain, come shine, no matter what happens to it, it's all, I mean, it's down to you, it's your business. Or do you want to hedge it somewhere else where you feel it's probably a stronger alternative? It's all your choice at the end of the day. I'm not your financial advisor, so I'm not going to give you financial advice.
Of
Yeah,
course
but
not. Of
read
course.
between the lines, people. Read between the lines, people. You know what to do.
Mm. I appreciate you for joining us today. If you're just tuning in, we've been having a conversation with Victor Olorunfemi. Now, he's a part of Bantu Blockchain Foundation, but he's also a techpreneur, and he has worked on various projects to help move continents, countries, industries forward in the world of tech. It's a it's about time we wrap this up today. But please join us again to talk a little bit more about this tokenization thing. I think we should have a conversation on how
Hmm.
to build a token. That would be nice. Maybe we could even show the process here. Maybe you could show us
Yeah,
some
absolutely. We
slides or
could.
some videos. That would be
Yeah,
interesting. All
no
right,
worries.
Victor.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
TT. Thank you, everyone.
All right then. All right then. Now, Victor is one of those people that is one of my go-to um, friends. I'm going to say yes, friends who is always ready to, lend a hand and help shed some light on certain areas, especially with regards blockchain. You have to have one or two people that you can turn to, and there are so many questions that need answering, and hopefully with the Blockchain Mastery podcast, we're going to help answer a few of them for you. Until we come your way next time, happy trading.